Invited to be a featured performing group at this year's Texas Music Educators Convention in February in San Antonio. Their preparatory concert will be given in the Lamar University Theater on February the 5th at 8 o'clock in the evening. There is, of course, no admission charge for the concert. Mr. Bob Culbertson, who is the French horn instructor, will be performing the Strauss Horn Concerto, and the wind ensemble will be under the direction of Dr. Barry Johnson. So I hope that you might mark that on your calendar, February the 5th at 8 o'clock at Lamar University. And we do have to take a moment before we spend the rest of our evening with the youngsters to say thanks to two people who threaten me annually against doing this. But they just have to come out here, because without their efforts, which are long and tiring, we never get any of this underway. The Region Band Chairman and Director of Bands at West Orange Stark High School, Mr. Glenn Finley, and the Region Chairman, Director of Bands at Harvard Jefferson High School, Ms. Diane Baker. Glenn and Diane, please come out and let us say hello. I want to assure you of one thing. The last piece on the program, Midnight Fire Alarm, is still on the program. But ladies and gentlemen, let me warn you that we are using a siren during the performance of the piece. It is not the buzzer, which you heard earlier. It is a siren, and Mr. First Chair Siren tonight is Mr. Glenn Finley, who you just met. And so please don't get panicky when you hear that go off. It is part of the show. Tonight's conductor for high school band number 1 is Mr. Waymon Bullock, who is the director of bands from Lufkin High School in Lufkin, Texas. He brings a wealth of experience to the podium. You can read all about him right there. Let's get on with the show. Here's concert band 1, Mr. Waymon Bullock. Bullock chose to open his program the concert overture Sinfonians, written in the early 1960s by Clifton, who at that time was professor of theory and composition at the University of Texas, subsequently moved to the University of Miami and had a very untimely early demise to cancer. Mr. Bullock reaches a little further backward in time in band literature now and will perform for you the overture Samba by Harold. was discussing with you earlier the situation that the junior high youngsters went through to get to the band. I told you there was a little more to the story, if that's quite true, and it happens once we arrive at high school level. First of all, these youngsters are required to prepare 3 very treacherous etudes on their instruments. The reason that they are so difficult is because after they're used on local region levels, which generally statewide include 40 to 60 high school bands in each region, then a select group of these young people who have claimed high enough chairs in the tryouts are then qualified to go on to another level or area of auditions where we put 4 or 5 regions together. And from those 4 or 5 regions, if there are 4, we take 1/4 of the students. If there are 5, we take 1/5 of the students. And those students then have earned the right to continue on to membership in one of the 2 Texas All-State bands, which performs in February of each year. Now in this band, because of the way our region bands are set up, are most all of those youngsters who earn this right to go on. Some of them here are alternates, and due to the fact that there are so many, I am not going to read their names. However, we definitely do want to recognize them. If you are an alternate to area tryouts, would you stand please and let us say hello to you? Alternates to area tryouts. This next large crowd, which is going to stand, were certified by the band directors in this region to have played well enough to be considered for tryouts for the Texas All-State Band. So if you went to area tryouts, then would you stand please and let us recognize you? Then from this group, I think this region was fairly successful this time around. And as soon as I can find the right page where I have all this marked, there it is. Earning positions as alternates to the Texas All-State Band were Kathleen Lundy on bass clarinet from Vida. Would you stand please? Baritone saxophone from Hardin Jefferson, Mr. Ron White. I hope I pronounced the name right. Bass trombone from Vida, Scott Searle. Baritone from Nederland High School, David Johnson. And then as I introduce these next several students, they have all qualified to go on from here in band, but had to make a decision early on. So you'll see that some of them are in other Texas All-State performing organizations. From West Orange Start in the All-State Choir, Miss Betsy Reeves. The All-State Band from West Orange Start High School on B-flat clarinet, Miss Margaret Morris. From Westbrook Senior High School in the All-State Orchestra on trumpet, Mr. Scott Gearhart. Also in the All-State Orchestra from West Orange Stark High School, also on trumpet, Mr. Kevin Pruitt. In the All-State Band from Silsey on French horn, Miss Cindy Birmingham. In the All-State Band from Vida on tuba, and I might add, carrying on a family tradition, following his older brother, Mr. Archie Cassidy. Also, the tuba section of the All-State Band from Cypress Mauriceville High School, Mr. Nathan Frazier. Return engagement to the Texas All-State Band From Little Cypress Mauriceville High School on percussion 1, Mr. James Pudia. Also in percussion, also in the All-State Band, also percussion 1, from West Orange Stark High School, Miss Karen Snyder. Also in the percussion section, also in the All-State Band, from Nederland High School, Mr. Jeff Carter. Let me assure you that these young people are in for a tremendous treat because the Texas All-State Bands are something that if you've never heard, you ought to go to San Antonio on February 15th to listen to them. Mr. Bullock would like to continue his program by reaching just a slight bit further backwards in time and perform for you Adagio